Now, these are all good news for us, both from the perspective of being a consumer of Google offerings. So there will be more competition, costs will come down, and also in terms of being able to compete in the market to provide similar services to others.
Welcome to Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. This is a short look at a news report that came out about the US Justice Department going forward to break up the tech company Google. Rather, the tech company is Alphabet and Google is a subsidiary. And the aim is that the Android operating software and its Chrome browser will be divested. So what does it mean actually? I have with me Jaijit Bhattacharya. He heads a digital policy think tank, and we have seen him on Strat News Global before. Jaideep, welcome. Very quick question to you. What does this mean? This breaking up, this decision to break up, divest Chrome and Android operating system.
See, the allegation, Surya, has been that Google has a monopoly in the digital space. And digital space, unfortunately, is thrives on the network effect, which means that the more you have, the more valuable you become. Because if you are in multiple places in the digital world, then you've got more information which you can use to provide greater value, and therefore there'll be more users coming to you. In a nutshell, that's what a network effect means. Now, if you look at this specific case, the search engine of Google is driven by lots of data. So if you are using the Chrome browser, Google has got more information about you, so that Google can guess what is it that you're looking for. So if you put a search on Endeavor, or let's say Everest, are you searching for Everest the hill, or Everest the person, or Ford Everest as a car, and so on and so forth? There's a context to it. But you'll see magically you get what you're looking for, because Google knows what you're looking for. And so every time you use Chrome, Google gets more information about you. Similarly, every time you use an Android mobile phone, Google gets more information about you. The point is, so what? I mean, others can do the same thing. Others can also float browser. Others can also have an Android, a mobile operating system, and get the same information. The challenge is that Google has over 70% of the market in terms of mobile phones, in terms of the mobile phone operating systems. Android is basically an operating system for the mobile phone. It's got more than 65% of the market share in terms of browser. So Google has a stranglehold over all of us in terms of digital assets. And therefore, Google is able to churn out a far better search result than anyone else. Now, moving forward, it becomes even more scary from a competition perspective, because all of this then leads to a better AI. So what the US government is saying, or their antitrust agencies are saying, is that not only is there an issue now, because we don't see too many search engines out there because of the stranglehold that Google has. In fact, Google pays over, I think, around $30 billion to Apple, so that Google Chrome is the predefined browser in Apple, and the search engine behind Safari is Google, is what they have put in, and for that they make this humongous amount of payment to Apple. So in future, Google will have far more information to create a far better AI than anyone else, and so the monopoly that's there for today's digital world gets translated to the monopoly for the future digital world, and that's dangerous. And if we have a monopolistic entity in the market, it also leads to reduced innovation. It also leads to smaller startups not being able to scale up, and so on and so forth. For example, Google itself would have faced a challenge in scaling up if AT&T was not broken down. AT&T had a stranglehold in the US market. So the US antitrust agencies walked in and said, AT&T doesn't work this way. You need to break it down, which is why now we have what we call as a baby bells. The large Ma Bell company, the AT&T company, was broken down, and smaller companies got created, and therefore innovation kept happening. It is in a way a constructive destruction that happens, which we as Indians know very well. It's part of our understanding that constructive destruction is important. That's what Lord Shiva is all about. So that's really what's happening from the Google perspective.
Yeah. So assuming that this goes forward and the divestment actually happens, it means Chrome and the Android thing are all available for everyone, or how does it work?
No, not necessarily so. So look, Android anyway is open source in that sense, but it has got the copyright of the name Android and so on and so forth, right? And if you need support, you have to have Google involved in any realistic commercial application of Android. So will it be available freely to everybody? No, not at all. All that it means is that Google will not have control over Chrome or over
Hmm.
Android. So they will become separate companies. So Google, in terms of a search engine, will be at par with any other search engine. Right now, Google has a tremendous advantage compared to, let's say, DuckDuckGo or many of the other search engines that exist out there, because they don't have access to this enormous amount of data that Google is able to get access to. So what will essentially happen is that Chrome and Android will move into two different companies with two different ownership, two different management, with no linkages back to Google, and therefore data from these companies cannot necessarily go back to Google, or even if it goes to Google, it will be on a at par with anyone else. So therefore, they will be able to sell the data to, let's say, DuckDuckGo and other search engines. So that's essentially what it means.
Hmm. And what impact over here? Does it impact on India at all?
That's a very interesting question because let's take the example of AT&T breaking down. That was in the 80s, 82, 83. That was when AT&T broke down. That led to another or a host of US companies coming up. Right? It's almost like when an Amazon tree falls, there are new trees that come out in the bottom because sun rays starts falling in. Now, if it's only US which had dominance over tech, then it will be advantageous to US because if this breakup happens, other US companies will be at par. There'll be more Googles coming out in that sense. But the world has changed since then. China is a significant tech player, and India is a emerging tech player in that sense. I will not consider the services industry to be really tech industry, but we are emerging as a serious tech player. So in a way, it's good news for Chinese and Indian technology industry because there will be breathing space for our companies to grow faster and get into spaces where Google was dominating. In addition to that, there is also talk about breaking up Google Play. And as we know what happened in the last couple of years, there's a lot of angst against Google Play Store because they are forcing the startups to use only the Google payments and at a rate which is 30% of the total revenues, which is usurious and humongous. And so it's not only just Google Play Store, but there's talk about breaking up Google Payments also. Now, these are all good news for us, both from the perspective of being a consumer of Google offerings. So there will be more competition, costs will come down, and also in terms of being able to compete in the market to provide similar services to others.
So we can expect to see Indian companies to move into this space. Any likely little tigers out there that you can name?
Ola has got into mapping as one example that comes to the top of my mind. Obviously, they are mired in some recent controversies, but just like Ola, there will be Map My India from a mapping perspective. Many of the startups, all the payment gateway companies, right now
Yeah.
their bread and butter is being taken away by Google Pay. That will change. In terms of search engines, many of the search engines that India created, such as Khoj, has not been able to make a dent because the educated lot use English, and then Google is a dominant player in that space. But as we move more towards vernacular in the internet space, I think we will have more vernacular based search engines coming up, which will not be threatened by Google in that sense. So there will be many that will happen. Maybe they don't exist as we speak, and they will come up post this change that happens.
So a lot of movement can be expected. Jaijit, thanks very much. Great talking to you.
Same here. Thank you, Surya. Thank you so much.
That's all we have for you on this little broadcast, just to keep you updated on the tech developments going on in the international market. Thanks very much.